Hello, everyone. I'm Christina. And I know I've been gone a week, but I was really needing to just do some things around here, but that's okay. I was watching what's going on around the world the entire time. So, we're going to take a look at that because there's certainly a lot to cover. Last time we were talking was, I believe, oh, yes. Texas was reopening. We've got 4 days until the Texas grand reopening, and right behind that, Greg Abbott decided to make another announcement, which we'll go over, so that's gonna be really cool. Lot of things going on. So, while you're at it, as you come along, be sure to hit like if you're new here, subscribe, hit the all notifications on your bell, and definitely say hello in the comments. I hope this computer is working better for you guys. I hope it's not buffering so bad, and I hope you can hear me all right. Hello, Doc. Hello, Christy. And hello, Star Sister. I'm so glad to see all of you. So, do you want to go ahead and start with the planes that have been crashing in on? And this is just in the last 6 days. Okay. Now, what happened was I saw this pretty long list for just 6 days in plane crashes, but not all of them were due to the circumstances that we were discussing, taking off or, right at takeoff, and the electrical issues, things like that. I saw things like they clipped trees coming in, or Greenpeace got one of the planes that actually happened. But what I was able to do was go ahead and make a pretty long list of planes that have crashed just since the last time we talked with similar or mysterious circumstances. So you ready to take a look? Ready. Let's start. All right. Scroll back up here on the list. All right, we're going with the big ones first. There was kind of a little backstory on this. The Boeing 737 MAX has been grounded for the last 2 years and was phasing back in, but China still feels that they have major concerns that have not been addressed. So they're really not into the Boeing 737 MAXs being used in China, basically. They don't think they're safe, and they don't want them in their country. Also, the last time we talked about falling planes, there was one that had happened on February 20th, that a lot of the parts of the engine had fallen onto this neighborhood. There was an update to that. The preliminary report doesn't mean it's all the final report, but it reveals that they had worn fan blades. Part came down, in Broomfield. We discussed that. After this incident, previous reports of the PW4000 engine pass failures were reviewed. They are investigating why there was a fire on the engine, even though the fuel had been cut. That's interesting. In December 2020, another incident had occurred in Japan and now has ordered the grounding of 32 Boeing 777 aircraft. So, as per the Aviation Safety Network, most of these planes, if not all of them, were small private planes. So there's definitely an issue with small private planes. Starting with March 1st, a Beechcraft B300 King Air 350 on a cloud seeding flight crashed into a residential area in China. All 5 occupants of the King Air were killed, 3 houses damaged, and 1 villager suffered minor injuries. March 2nd, South Sudan, Supreme Airlines Let L410 UVPE, kind of plane, that's the plane, had an accident, 10 dead. And I guess they call it a Let L410 aircraft for short, operated by South Sudan Supreme Airlines, crashed shortly after departure from Puri Airstrip, South Sudan. All 10 on board, 2 pilots, and 8 passengers have reportedly died. The South Sudan Civil Aviation Authority reported that one of the aircraft's engines failed about 10 minutes after takeoff. While turning back to Puri, the second engine is also reported to have failed. Let's go ahead and take a check at the comments. See, okay, we're doing good with the comments. Ready. We'll get back to it. March 2nd, same day, a Eurocopter EC 120B Colibri. And I did include helicopters in this. It was 0 fatalities. France crashed on takeoff, resulting in 1 injury. March 2nd, Michigan. 52-year-old pilot survives single engine airplane crash spawned from equipment failure. March 3rd, a Cessna 180 Skywagon, 2 fatalities, circumstances are unknown, crashed shortly after takeoff, and it looks like it was in Paraguay. I was having a hard time understanding the maps on this one, but it looks like Paraguay. March 3rd, another Cessna 150J N60290, following a loss of engine power. The aircraft sustained substantial damage subsequent to an open field forced landing in Lodi, California. The 2 occupants on board the plane were not injured. March 3rd, Piper PA 31-350 Navajo Chieftain, Mexico, crashed under unknown circumstances, 0 fatalities. March 3rd, Cessna 182F Skylane private plane, Washington. The aircraft experienced a loss of directional control and subsequent runway excursion upon landing Walla Walla Regional Airport, which is Walla Walla, Washington. The airplane sustained substantial damage subsequent to the loss of the left main landing gear wheel, and the 2 pilots on board were not injured during the incident. And, I wanted to go ahead and mention this, that at first when I saw, like landing gear malfunction, the nose gear malfunctioning too, I didn't think much of it the first time, but in this report, I didn't list all of them, but it just started really, there must have been about 6 of them, 7 of them, again, just in the last week, where there was landing gear issues also. So that really caught my eye. But there's more, okay? March 4th in Hampton, Georgia, Mooney M20K 231, no fatalities, following a loss of engine power during the takeoff roll. The aircraft sustained minor damage during the subsequent runway overrun at Atlanta Speedway Airport in Hampton, Georgia. The sole pilot on board the plane was not injured. March 4th, the Turkish military Eurocopter AS-532UL Cougar helicopter crashed on a hillside in Tatvan, Bitlis province. 11 occupants died in the crash and 2 were injured. March 4th, Virginia, 1 fatality, fuel spill. Accident is under investigation, crashed shortly after takeoff. March 5th, private, another Cessna, 182Q Skylane 2, loss of power over Costa Rica, no fatalities. Can you imagine? Just, we've lost power. There's no fatalities. I mean, it just really speaks to the skill of these pilots. When you see, I couldn't imagine, but they do it. No fatalities. March 5th, Mojave, California, non-military aircraft crashes. Both pilots ejected safely. So that tells you right there that something was wrong before they ejected. They knew that something was wrong with the aircraft, because the aircraft is used for flight training. They don't really have it in service. And there were a few that I'd seen today, but I didn't see anything that really caught my eye necessarily as far as plane crashes, but that's a lot of planes. That's a lot. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that I could say were the right circumstances that we were talking about last week in just a matter of 6 days. That's it. And then, of course, all of the ones that I didn't mention on this report that were about the landing gear. There was a lot more than that. See how everybody's doing. Hello, Sheila. I'm so glad to see you guys. Always glad to see you here. So what do y'all think about that so far? It's a lot of planes. And it's just the first week of March. And that's just a small amount of the things that we were watching going on here on planet Earth. That's just with the planes. Oh, thank you so much, Adrian. God bless you. I really always appreciate when you do that. I love it when you share my videos. It just really helps out a lot. Awesome. Awesome. Yes. Yeah. That's great. So maybe we'd like to take a look and see what else we've had going on. Now, I mentioned earlier, I will save that for just a little bit longer. Okay, so what I wanted to do is just kind of take a look and see what else that's been besides the planes going on around the world and that might be attributed to magnetosphere issues, right? Because there's going to be a speeding up of things, birth pangs that get closer and closer together. So since we already knew that the volcanoes all over the world were having magma infill, dormant volcanoes have been waking up, there are just certain things that we would be seeing around the world in a magnetic pole reversal. You'd be able to see a lot of that starting to happen in the news. And I feel like that's exactly what we've been seeing, starting with the 3 major earthquakes and aftershocks that New Zealand has suffered over the last few days. That's just one example, though, of how serious, how much pressure the earth is under right now. That's just one. Some people are actually worried that it's going to go again. Then a strange thing was happening that same day that New Zealand was reporting these. It said that Mary Greeley News reported that day that 3 days prior that a weird thing had been happening. The elk and the buffalo were leaving Yellowstone Park. You got to watch the animals. They when they start doing exoduses, we usually know that something is wrong. And it wouldn't be hard to guess what that might be with Yellowstone. That would be an issue with magma. All right. We've also been continuing to see landslides in the news. But the floods have gotten crazy too. Several, one in Morocco, a major one in Kentucky, one in Ecuador, and Brazil. And I believe this was all over just this week. A lot of this news is going to be just from the last 6 days. It's just really mind-blowing. Living a flight path makes me a bit nervous. I know how you feel. I live in the Houston area pretty much all my life. And when 9/11 happened, I was very, very close to the Intercontinental Airport on the north side. And it was the first day of my life that I didn't hear planes up in the sky. It was a very eerie, surreal feeling, but I can imagine to kind of always be listening to see if anything is dropping out of the sky, which tells you that things are unstable underneath our feet and above our heads. We got to watch. Chat says 0 people. Oh, that's weird because it says there are 11 people watching. Yeah, okay, so it did catch up. All right, 11 in the chat. Hey, Clarissa, so good to see you. All righty. Yeah, okay, so let's see. What else has been going on? Okay, then there was the famous meteor that lit up the UK night sky. We knew that there would be an uptick in those. So we're still watching this happen. Then Mount Etna blew its top in Italy, and people had been talking about Italy for a while and how concerned they were with it. Well, it did. And somebody made a comment to me like that the Pope had just been saying, or maybe it was in a video or something. Somebody had told me that the Pope had said the story of Noah was a myth. And I'm like, that's probably why it happened. I mean, it could be it, but it was like, you can't just be talking and blaspheming like that. But I don't know. Mount Etna's going, we know it's the magnetic pole reversal signs, but a lot of this, under a Christian understanding, is because it's the end of days. We're getting ready for Judgment Day and a lot of things. So we're going to see things like Mount Etna in Italy. But also, I think that you might find it interesting if you haven't already heard. Now, we knew that there were food shortages going on, right? And we've been seeing them on the shelves for a while, how we might have to ration certain things. Like you're only allowed to have 2 of this or 1 of that in order for everybody to get something. Well, the shortages are much bigger now than you might even think. Getting parts for a lot of things is getting really hard, and they're talking about shortages on everything, like, and let me check out this list super fast. For example, they mentioned lawnmowers, that it's easier to fix your lawnmower than to be able to find one in some areas. It's getting harder to find them. Shortages in refrigerators, shortages in steel, aluminum, electronic control boards, dishwashers. Now it says cars, but I don't know. I don't know about that one. But I do know that my friend wanted to try to get a used part, refurbished part for his car. Couldn't find one in the entire state of Texas, not in the scrap yards, not anywhere. The parts, he had to buy new, and no telling how long it would take to get that in. All right. They said that getting new components on power equipment, semiconductor chips, and they said that's a really big deal when it comes to electronics. So semiconductor chips. And to make it a little bit broader, ever since the Texas winter storm came through, we have a shortage of plumbers too. Ammo shortages. So see, everything is really starting to expand. So whether or not you felt comfortable with Texas and other states reopening, if we don't, we're dead anyway. We can't make and produce the items that are needed if we're at home. You see, somebody has to take the first step, because right, it's not just food. And we know that there are seed issues that keep popping up now for the last couple of years. And there was times when they taped off the seed section, you could see them there, but they wouldn't let you buy them. That was just a year ago. So people are starting to save their seeds now too. People are starting to wake up to the fact that things are getting worse. And now we're starting to, as a society, getting our eyes opened as to why these things happening and why it's not going to get any better and what to keep expecting. Okay. Hello, Jeff Jacobs. Glad that you made it, Catherine. Glad everybody's doing so good. Awesome. I hope you're enjoying yourselves so far. Garden Spices, hello. We were only allowed 150 gallons for our 400-gallon tank. Oh, was this during a disaster? What was going on with that? Let me know. All right, so we're going to go on to what we were going to next. Oh, and this is interesting. Have y'all heard of space hurricanes? This was just reported in the news like a day or so ago ish. But the report is on what happened back in 2014. Now, one has to wonder, are they just now reporting this for a specific reason? Or, what? But I found that this was one of the coolest things I've ever heard of. Space hurricanes. Oh my goodness. And this happened to Earth in 2014. So I didn't know if y'all wanted to take a minute to go ahead and read over this article super fast. It was it's published by Insider, written by Aylin Woodward, March 3rd, 2021. It is titled, Scientists Spotted a Space Hurricane Swirling Above the Magnetic North Pole. It was raining charged particles. Bulletin 1 says, scientists said in a new study that they spotted a space hurricane for the first time in August 2014. So what does that mean? They've spotted more since? The storm swirled 125 miles above the magnetic North Pole. Wonder what that did to the auroras. Bulletin 3. Bullet. Instead of dropping water, the space hurricane rained electrons, which can wreak havoc on satellites. Excuse me. Sorry. Typical hurricanes are easy to spot in satellite imagery. Swirling clouds surround a quiet eye. These storms usually form in the lowest layer of the atmosphere, closer to Earth's surface, and unleash heavy rain and strong winds. Space hurricanes are wholly different beasts. They're different from the typical hurricane. A study published in the journal Nature Communications last month describes the first space hurricane ever spotted. In August 2014, satellites observing a swirling mass with a quiet center more than 125 miles above the North Pole. Whereas regular hurricanes churn air, this space hurricane was an eddy of plasma, a type of super hot charged gas found throughout the solar system. And instead of rain, this storm brought showers of electrons. Until now, it was uncertain that space plasma hurricanes even existed. So to prove this with such a striking observation is incredible. Michael Lockwood, a space scientist at the University of Reading and a co-author of the new study, said in a press release. The space hurricane was more than 620 miles wide and high in the sky. It formed in the ionosphere between 50 and 600 miles up. Lockwood and his co-authors used the satellite data to create a 3D model of the storm. Space hurricanes could wreak havoc on satellites. The space hurricane lasted 8 hours, swirling counterclockwise. The researchers said it had several spiral arms snaking out from its center, a bit like a spiral galaxy. By plugging the satellite data into a computer model, Lockwood and his collaborators were able to reproduce the storm and figure out what caused it. They found that charged particles emitted by the sun's upper atmosphere, the corona, were to blame. The steady stream of solar particles and coronal plasma is known as solar wind. It moves at about 1 million miles an hour. These space hurricanes must be created by unusually large and rapid transfer of solar wind energy and charged particles into the Earth's upper atmosphere. As solar wind reaches Earth, it encounters the planet's magnetic field. Earth has such a field because of the swirling liquid iron and nickel in its outer core, which gives rise to electric currents. The magnetosphere protects the planet from deadly radiation from the sun, but also retains a tiny layer of plasma from that solar wind. How long is this article? That's a really long article. We're just going to skip to the last paragraph, and I'll just end up putting this link in the description box, or you can just look up what do we call it? Space hurricanes. They've got a lot of articles on it now, is what it looked like. The last paragraph says plasma and magnetic fields in the atmosphere of planets exist throughout the universe. That space is full of plasma, magnetic fields, perpetual motion. Yep. So the findings suggest space hurricanes should be a widespread phenomena. Okay, let's take a look at the comments. Okay, you mean the polar vortex that's always been there, the 4 gas planets have them? We need propane right after that crisis in Texas. We are in Missouri. They told us they were told to ration it to everybody. Yes, garden spices, it was interesting. I know that just some months ago, I was telling people or yeah, that I'd read an article saying that propane shortages were coming, but I don't think anybody expected it to start this way. And isn't it something, now they're reporting that American oil thing was bombed by Russia because, well, they attacked our oil, right? So that it could come that way too. But I think everybody should have some kind of alternate heat, and ours is propane also. And I found out that they sell those Mr. Buddy propane canisters at Kroger too. Well, where they have like the charcoal at. Clarissa Packer. My family uses wood and charcoal to grill food. The wood just falls from the sky oak trees, have the tendency to drop a lot of branches. Don't you find it harder if they're wet though? I mean, isn't it easier to get that ahead of time? I don't know. Is that what you do? Have them kind of stored up? Because I have a feeling that we might need to do that. I bet there's one at South Pole too, rotating in the opposite direction. You never know, Clarissa. The Earth is going through so much right now. The double wobble and the poles splitting and heading in opposite directions. Don't even get me started on another chunk of ice falling off of Antarctica. It's almost like the land that's under Antarctica hasn't seen daylight in thousands of years, and it's like it's just being reborn or something. It's terrifying and amazing to watch all at the same time. The propane company couldn't get any more for their customers. The supply chain was down. Wow. Wow. Yeah, and that's what I've seen is when there's an issue in Houston, like a hurricane or whatever, especially in Houston, when we cannot get anything out, oil, gas, propane, the rest of the world rest of America suffers right away within days. And this is why it's going to be important whenever you get done with a disaster of some type, especially if you're a prepper, as soon as things start getting back to normal, that's when you start prepping all over again. You restock what you use, like you fill up your water jugs again, and you get that propane, or you refill that propane as soon as you can. You start restocking your food where you had eaten some of your supply, and that always ready for the next disaster, because there always is another disaster coming, and you don't want to continue to be caught. The first 3 days of a disaster are so crazy. That's when everything disappears. Everybody's waiting in these insane lines, in some cases getting shot, beat up, robbed, when you could have already had it. And I think that this taught a lot of people. So as soon as you do get the propane available, always make sure you keep it in stock, because you just never know. But I mean, that supply chain could break down at any time, any of it. We might have to face the fact that someday we might have things we just won't have anymore. My family uses wood, okay. We keep the branches piled up and covered with a tarp or put them in the garage. Okay, cool. That's good. That's smart. You're always so smart. We're living in exciting times. Yes, we are. Yes, and we're going to talk more about what's going on around the world in just a second. A lot of shelves are bare, right? I'm seeing a lot of that too. All right, let's move on to what else is on the list. We talked about the space hurricanes, but then, and we've got Iceland, the country of Iceland. Not only are they suffering a major influx of magma, but they have a volcano about to go off. And to top it all off, they're saying that Iceland could split in half. So let me just give you a tip super fast. If you have any pictures or maps of the world as it is right now, you might want to frame that because the topography of Earth is about to change. Okay. Second King speaks of pole shift. I bet it does. Send us a Bible verse, Jeff, if you want to. Did you see what happened in Kentucky? That's my yes, the flood. Yes, that was amazing. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, that looks like Houston every spring and every fall. I could understand what they were going through. Yes, I saw it. I believe the country saw it too. And speaking of that, people watching, do you realize the world is watching America right now? We'll talk a little bit more about that. And if I was somebody that was watching America right now, I'll tell you what I think about that soon. All right, so behind Texas and Tennessee and Mississippi and probably some other states, Maine has decided to open up for tourism. No quarantine. Their tourism season is coming in. They too need their economy to come back. They need to get back to work. And so they're opening up. Now, apparently Massachusetts isn't happy about it. But again, everybody's going to have their own opinions. And what's going to end up happening is just like it became more and more common to wear these masks, I think over time it'll more and more become of less of a thing and more of an as needed thing. If you want to wear a mask for certain things, maybe it's flu season, you're sick and tired of getting the flu, but somebody was talking about there's he had like he was a medical assessor and he sees that people that have to wear masks all day, that they're starting to have you can tell they're starting to slow down, their speech is slurred, and this is after so long that it's really taking down the mental cognition of the people that are constantly having to wear them. There are dangers, there are arguments for and against wearing the mask, and some of it, I mean, I don't think it was meant to be worn this much. I really don't. I don't know how nurses do it. They're like superhuman sometimes. The Bible does say that mountains and islands will disappear and move away. Yep, that islands will flee. Yeah, something like that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that the clouds will roll back like a scroll. We're putting in a new well with a hand pump. See, now that's smart. It's fine if you got all this electric stuff until the electricity goes out and you need water. You need water. That is very smart to get a hand pump. I think everybody, if you have your own personally well, start getting those before they sell out too. It's just my dumb opinion, and ask for advice. Definitely a great idea. Oh yes, and then it comes out in the news today, well, at least I heard it through Dabu, that did you know that thousands of servers have been hacked? Rumor is that China did it, but email servers have been compromised. Tens of thousands of email servers, or thousand, something like that. That okay, now if you look back to everything that's been hacked just over the last 4 months, like our national security, phones, you name it, banks, nuclear power plants. I mean, just you start looking back over time and they somebody's got their hands on all the buttons. And I'm telling you, you may not realize it, but we're already under attack. We're already being watched. Everything we say, everything we do. And when it comes to some other countries that are attacking you covertly, it's probably only a matter of time before they outright do it because you don't just do it, you don't just stay quiet forever. There's always a purpose for all of this, why they need their hands under on all of these controls. And it also brings to mind why you should be careful getting things like nanoparticles and RFID chips in you, especially ones attached to your brains, because they're trying to hack you too, take control over you and track you. That's dangerous. And they can make it look for whatever reason, or maybe it started out with good intentions and that was really what it was supposed to be good. But when you put too many components together and somebody's at the control, somebody's can hack and pretty much anything, I'd be careful. If they can hack emails and power plants and banks and everything else, I'd be really worried about putting anything electronic in my body. Anything. You know, they've even got those pills, the pharmaceutical companies, they wanna have pills where they have these little microchips and the micro nanochips that alert the pharmacies and the doctors every time you taking your pills so that they know if you're taking your pills correctly and on time. Micro nanny much? We've been under attack for a while. Yep, yep, we have been, but it's leading up to something. I had a dream about people turning into zombies after taking the mark of the beast, and it only makes sense, Clarissa. I've said it before, and if they can take control of you like that, to where you can the last thing that you ever said was, "Yes, I'll be with the beast and do all his craziness and give my life over to that craziness." They I think they're that's how it happens is they literally take away your ability to ever be able to make one of your that there's a machine, a system working for you. There's no way ever to repent or to overcome the programming that's interfering and that whoever has control, you don't have control anymore after that. That's what makes sense to me. They're going to turn us kind of into robots. I had a dream about that. Okay. So what else is going on? All right. So Texas Governor Greg Abbott, switching gears just a little bit. He's talking about reopening Texas on Wednesday. Okay? Because I'm starting a business soon and it's a small little food ministry trailer. I'm fixing, like I'm putting a shelf back up on there and got to get my own labeling on there, but he's opening up. I don't want to have to deal with certain issues with masks or whatever, but now that it's every business's choice, that's great. But he also announced that, well, he was discussing a bill on social media censorship, and this is so great because for anybody that's been censored and banned because somebody didn't like what you have to say, your political views, your religious views, or just your opinion or your questions, then that you just get deleted. All of your hard work, you get demonetized, or they start shadow banning you, or whatever. This bill, he says that they're concerned about conservative voices and voices in general that are silenced while these platforms destroy free speech. Other states are also reviewing the bill. So it could be going to a state near you. They call it Senate Bill 12. Isn't that the nicest? It's a simple Senate Bill 12 will lead the nation in restoring free speech. Political, religious, opinion, and world views should be protected. And here's the cherry on top. Now, it's not put into law just yet, but they are working on it. So I think that this is going to need a lot of citizen support in every state. I think that every state, the citizens should start, really showing an interest, taking a look at the bill and seeing how this one might be translated for you in your state too, because it means as of if this bill passes that Texans can sue these platforms for censorship. Uh-oh. Now, wouldn't that be something if we could fight back, or maybe even just get a clear reason as to why they don't like our video? And I finally figured out why they banned my South Atlantic anomaly video back in the day. It wasn't that it was hate speech because it was purely science. I finally realized it's because they hated what I had to say. That's what it had to mean, because they just don't like what you have to say. You're done. That's it. Be careful. They got their boot on your neck. I mean, why should we have to replace certain words with the jab anyway, or whatever? Why can't we just say what it is? Is it just me, or are the Democrats sounding paranoid, especially the ones in Congress? Well, yeah, because now they're talking about having troops around the DC Capitol building all the time, like permanently, or some kind of troops that can be just ushered in really quick if ever there's a problem. They are getting really paranoid. And somebody was asking Biden, oh gosh, asking why Biden hasn't held a certain media conference. And then there's this whole thing about the immigration problem on the border. We are in crisis once again. And for a president that is pushing the jab, and saying that people are Neanderthals for opening up their state, I want to know why that same person opened up the borders. If he thought that Texas governor and everybody was Neanderthals, why did he open up our border for another country to just come in sick, and not just with the coof, but with any range of illnesses untested? Just come on in. Doesn't make any sense. It's two-faced. It's double-tongued, four-tongued. You have to wonder, what is this guy really thinking? What is this guy really up to? How can you say that you're trying to protect Americans and build back better when you're destroying critical infrastructure that keeps us safe? Okay, let's go on just a little bit further down. Okay. Oh, but one encouraging piece of information is that While the world is still reacting to the decision by Texas and other states to reopen and drop the mask, we're already starting to see now hiring signs going up all around. So oh yes, and then there's the stimulus. Am I correct or incorrect? Because it seems like every day they're saying, "Oh, this house passed it," or they're still arguing about it, but is it actually passed now or not? Because they've been going back and forth on that for days now okay, I know longer than that, but I know that Mitch McConnell brought up some things that a lot of American citizens were talking about is that why are they passing a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, but only 9% of the bill actually goes to helping out Americans? That's it, 9%. He said that the rest would go to manifesting the Democrats' vision of their very own wish lists. Isn't that insane? Their very own wants, needs. Like, I'm in power. I want this and I want that. And because I can have everything I want now. Okay. 91% of the $1.9 trillion has nothing to do with helping out us at all. That's a lot of money for us to have to deal with in debt. All right. He called this a spending spree on non-coof issues, ramming through pet projects during a pandemic, which is basically an abuse of power, if you ask me. But it looks like we might have actually got a stimulus check on the way coming. Okay. All right. I'll see you soon, Adrian. Yeah. Nobody gets mad about that and they want to wear a mask. Take care, Adrian. I have a lot of animosity towards people just jump right up and tell others to wear a mask. I know things are getting very heated. Last subject I wanted to go over before we go for the night is that this is just my personal observation, but it seems like ever since the winter storm came through, that I have seen it just every hour it seems like I'm seeing on the news that there's been another carjacking or a shooting or some kind of murder. And specifically, it's been coming on the news for the states of Texas, California, and New York. I keep seeing over and over and over again shootings, carjackings, car crashes, assaults being reported. Has anybody else noticed that? It's like I had mentioned that when you're having magnetic pole issues like we are, that people are going to become irritable, more and more irritable, and that you might have problems like this, road rage, right? And then on top of that, everybody's been really cooped up for a while. But the Bible also talks about how the unrighteous would wax worse and worse. So we're starting to see that. I mean, I didn't know if I was the only one, but just kind of keep an eye out. A lot of what we talked about tonight, the planes, the politics, the space weather, a lot of this has to do with what goes on during a magnetic pole reversal, and the signs are speeding up. And again, what I just talked about tonight was only 6 days worth of news. All right. I want to go ahead and thank all of you for coming on tonight. It was really great to see you guys. I will talk to you soon. All right. God bless you all. Bye.